Welcome back to my channel. In case you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm taking my blood pressure measurements on advice from my doctor. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I have a history of preeclampsia. With my first child, I had preeclampsia, and having had that history, I'm advised to keep checking my pressure at all times when I'm expecting, so that we can know, in case of a problem, we can be able to catch it early enough. When you're taking your blood pressure, you need to be sure that the top reading, that is the systolic, does not go beyond 140, and the bottom, the diastolic, does not go beyond 90. So if your blood pressure is 140/90, that means that you're borderline. It's not so good, but again, it's not so bad. But if it goes beyond 140, that is for the top reading, or 90 for the bottom reading, then you need to call your doctor. You need to go to hospital and be checked, so that you're sure that everything is in order. So it's very important to have this blood pressure machine at home, because you're able to constantly monitor your pressure. And as much as it costs between 4,500 to 6,000 shillings, depending on where you're buying it. And it's a good investment because you're able to keep checking your pressure at all times. And in case of anything, you're able to catch it early enough. Sometimes you find that you feel fatigued and you just want to sleep, or you find that maybe you're having some blurry vision. But unless you check your pressure to confirm, you may not know that you're actually having high blood pressure. And one thing that I would say is that high blood pressure is it's a risky affair, because it may cost you your life, or you may end up having a stroke. I've been getting feedback from people about the channel. People would like to come on and talk about their experiences, and I'd love to have you here. So karibuni sana, and let's get on this journey together. So among the feedback that I've gotten, I've been asked severally by people, why did I decide to start my channel when I'm expectant, when I'm this heavy? So to be honest, I honestly don't have a reason why I started it now. I think it just was time. I felt that it's time to just do this. Doesn't matter how I look, how I feel, but I felt that it's time. We can't wait any longer. Like I said in my last video, when the time comes, you just need to start. There is nothing like waiting for the perfect time. You just start. So here we are. Now, the other thing I've been asked by people is now that I talked about CHD in my last video, my child has a congenital heart defect. And the thing I've been asked by people is, why would you have another baby when you have a baby who has a congenital heart defect? And I feel that having a congenital heart defect is not the end of the world. And that doesn't mean that you have to stop at that you can't now move on with your life. And like I said in my last video, my child has been doing very well, and he's really improved. So why not have a little brother or sister? When I started, you found me taking my pressure. And the reason why I do that, I actually do that every day because of the history that I have with preeclampsia. Preeclampsia is a condition where when a lady is pregnant, they get high blood pressure. It's characterized by high blood pressure and high protein in urine. So how do you get to know that you have preeclampsia? You have high blood pressure and high protein content in your urine. those are some of the main, those are the main things that you get to, that show that you have preeclampsia. So I have a history of preeclampsia. With my first child, I had preeclampsia. So whenever with my pregnancies, I have to keep checking my pressure so that I'm able to just be sure that my blood pressure is not so high, for the safety of both myself and my unborn baby. So preeclampsia, it's a complication that normally comes with pregnancy, and the only way that it can be sorted, or rather the only way to deal with preeclampsia, is by delivering the baby. And I remember with my first child, my blood pressure, luckily for me, my blood pressure didn't start rising very early. It started a little late. So by the time I was getting to my 40th week, okay, my blood pressure was high, but at least for me, the preeclampsia didn't start too early. For some people, it starts as early as 20 weeks. And so you have to keep being monitored, so that in case the blood pressure rises too high, the only option now for you would be to deliver the baby. Sometimes you deliver the baby at 34 weeks or even earlier, but the doctor tries to at least keep the baby safe for as long as they can in the womb. But if now it gets to a point where it threatens now the health of the mother and also the child, then the only option is to deliver. With this pregnancy, I was advised by the doctor to use some aspirin. This is aspirin. It's junior aspirin, and the reason why we use the junior aspirin is to help with containing the preeclampsia. It helps in checking the pressure and ensuring that it doesn't go too high. And it also helps with expanding the blood vessels, because when you have preeclampsia, you find that the blood vessels that supply the baby with the nutrients become constricted. So you need to take the aspirin so that it can at least expand the vessels and allow for nutrients to pass through. Most of the times you find that children who are born by mothers with preeclampsia are either very tiny because they don't get enough nutrients, and also because most of the times they get delivered too early, so they are normally preterm babies. So this aspirin helps with dilating the blood vessels for nutrients to pass through, and it also helps in keeping the pressure in check. So those are the two things that the doctor recommended that I do. Check my pressure every day, severally actually in a day. Take one aspirin every day, but then the aspirin, you take it for a certain period until I think it's from the 20th week, I'm not very sure, but up to the time that you're almost due for delivery, you now stop taking the aspirin, because like I said, the aspirin helps in dilating the blood vessels, and it also thins your blood. So once the blood is thinned, you don't want to get to a point where now you're going into delivery and your blood is too thin. You may end up losing too much blood. So the doctor will advise that you don't take, at some point you stop taking the aspirin. Preeclampsia is a condition that is life-threatening, and for both the mother and the child. And it's important that we get to start our clinics early, antenatal clinics. We normally find some mothers taking too long before they start antenatal clinics, which is not advisable, because you may be having preeclampsia and you don't know. Most of the times, like we may have heard before, high blood pressure is a silent killer. You may have preeclampsia, you may have high blood pressure, but you don't know that you have it. But some of the signs that you may find, sometimes you can find that you get to unafura. Unafura, you get maybe your hands, your face just puffs out. And the other thing that might be pointer to preeclampsia would be blurry vision. And sometimes you find that unless you understand what preeclampsia is, you may not know why you're getting this symptoms. So it's always good to go for the monthly visits to the hospital, antenatal clinics, so that you can be able to catch this condition early enough. Sometimes we get mothers who actually get preeclampsia towards the end of the third trimester, and it has actually caused death. I know of a friend who lost her life due to preeclampsia, and it's really sad when you get someone losing their lives because of such a condition, which can be caught early enough if this person is able to, or rather if it's detected early enough. It's important to go for checkups as often as possible. Let's not just sit and assume that we are fine just because we are feeling fine. So it's important that we do monthly checkups where necessary, and so that we can be able to catch some of these conditions early enough. I would say that preeclampsia normally catches, or rather, yeah, you normally get preeclampsia with the first child. Most of the mothers get preeclampsia with the first child, and sometimes you get it with the second or even the third. But the interesting thing is that if your first and second children are sired by the same father, the chances are that with the second child, the preeclampsia may not be there or may not be as much as with the first child. So for those who may have any other experiences that you'd like to share, it doesn't have to be expectant mothers only. We are here to grow together. Share your experiences with us, and let's grow this channel together.